Started with people emailing me off of my website and telling me that they'd seen my artwork in a cigarette ad. I think one of them even congratulated me. I thought that was kind of a case of mistaken identity, and I said, well, thank you very much, it probably wasn't me. But 3 or 4 people started, telling me this, and then when my sister emailed me and said it, I knew for sure that she knew what my artwork looked like. She knew that image, and I asked her if she could please, scan it. And so she did. She sent it to me right away. As soon as I saw it, I freaked out because I was like, oh my gosh, this is an exact copy, exact use of my artwork. And so the minute I saw that, I filled out the copyright registration form, and I mailed that in as quickly as possible. You mail it with a certified receipt so that you know when it was received by the Copyright Office in Washington, D.C. And then I set about trying to track them down, to contact them and ask them to please stop. It's very hard to get in touch with R.J. Reynolds. So I, to this point, thought it was only one, but then somebody else contacted me and they said, well, I've got 2 that ran a week apart in Denver. So he offered to mail me the actual newspaper. And when it arrived in the mail, I realized how big it was. It was a full-page newspaper ad. When my sister had scanned it and sent to me, it was just, a small picture on the screen. So then I got really concerned because I was doing projects for like children's books, and I was doing, some team-based stuff. And so I started to try and track it down. I started to ask, lawyers, what can I do about this? And, as I mentioned, the first lawyer, it wasn't appropriate for his firm's goals, but he sort of summarized it as me not having a case. So I assumed that I didn't have a case. I didn't know that you're supposed to talk to a bunch of lawyers to get an averaged opinion out of it. So I let that kind of, I thought it was over at that point, and it wasn't until the copyright registration, the final application, the final certificate rather, arrived in the mail about a year later that I thought, well, I should give this another try. So I talked to a friend of mine and who was working in a law firm, and she came back, very excited and said that the law partner was very interested in taking the case. And in my case, the smaller law firms didn't have the resources to go up against an R.J. Reynolds and Camel Cigarettes, so they had to turn that down unless I could pay them their hourly fee, which unfortunately I'm on a half shoestring. So the bigger law firms were very interested, and I even had one of the top firms interested in handling my case pro bono, which is for free. So I sent all the stuff over to them. It was a friend of mine there, and he came back the next day. He said, I'm very embarrassed. I didn't realize we actually represent the enemy. So they had to turn down the case, and I went through several other law firms, and again I ran into another R.J. Reynolds firm out of Chicago where they're like, look, we're sorry we can't help you. We represent R.J. Reynolds. So it was a very long process to find not only a law firm that had the resources, but one that didn't have a conflict of interest, a professional conflict of interest. As a preventive measure, I would suggest that if they feel that they have an image that's going to be likely to be very marketable, to go ahead and register that with the U.S. Copyright Office. It's just a two-sided piece of paper. It's $30 to send it in. You can go to www.copyright.gov, and you can download the file there, the form. And if you mail that in, and if it happens, if you register it before someone else steals it, you're in a wonderful position, even to get any lawyer that you want, because if you can't prove what they made as a profit from your image, you go before a jury, and the jury can automatically give you up to $150,000. In my case, I found out about the infringement after it happened, after 7 of them happened. And if I would have registered my copyright 7 days earlier and paid $30, I might have been eligible, and it's not all about the money, but I might have been eligible for $150,000 per infringement, and they infringed it 32 times. So I try not to do the math because it's not going to happen, but 32 times $150,000 is a pretty good deal for $30. My clients and my audience members were teenagers and even kids going all the way down to 4 years old. So here I am, like, developing these children's book ideas to pitch to companies, and the last thing I want is for them to go, oh, didn't you do that Camel Cigarettes ad? So when I realized that they weren't allowed to use cartoon characters under the master settlement agreement with the attorneys general, that became even more urgent to me, that they were knowingly, it seemed that they were knowingly targeting youth, and that actually bothers me a lot. I've come to believe that I was up against an opponent that plays a little dirty. I didn't like that so much, and I've sort of had my opinion of them before I started, but going through the whole process and seeing how they, threatened me with personal bankruptcy and the way they approached everything, of course confirmed some of the deeper, darker fears I had about a tobacco company.
As an inspiration things, I have no idea what your question was actually. Just to tell you the truth, I was just writing the basics of it, so just ask it.
So if someone else were to find themselves in this situation?
In the situation you were in, like
yes.
Okay.
Well, as a preventive measure, I would suggest that if they feel that they have an image that's going to be likely to be, very marketable, to go ahead and register that with the U.S. Copyright Office. It's just a two-sided piece of paper. It's $30 to send it in. You can go to www.copyright.gov, and you can download the file there, the form. And if you mail that in, and if it happens, if you register it before someone else steals it, you're in a wonderful position, even to get any lawyer that you want, because if you can't prove what they made as a profit from your image, you go before a jury, and the jury can automatically give you up to $150,000. In my case, I found out about the infringement after it happened, after 7 of them happened. And if I would have registered my copyright 7 days earlier and paid $30, I might have been eligible, and it's not all about the money, but I might have been eligible for $150,000 per infringement, and they infringed it 32 times. So I try not to do the math because it's not going to happen, but 32 times $150,000 is a pretty good deal for $30. So I would recommend that people do that if they feel that there's a strong likelihood that they're going to be infringed. As far as other artists, I would say that even though it sounds like a negative experience, but it's been like one of the best experiences I've been through, because I've just learned so much. And just the whole thing about this sort of the structure of how business works, and how a lot of businesses are afraid of legal liabilities, and how they go about doing things to protect themselves, and what I needed to do to protect myself. I just think it's really creative and really interesting, and I had no idea that the law was just so creative a process either. So it's been a really good experience, even though it's kind of been weird.
When a tobacco industry executive was asked to be smoked, he replied, "We don't smoke it, we just sell it. We reserve that right for the young, the black, the poor, and the stupid."
30% of all tobacco ads are 3 feet or under.
Did you know that a child who sees their favorite start smoking on screen is 3 times more likely to pick up a cigarette themselves? We know we're big tobacco's target, but we do not want to become their victims.
gonna get nothing done with you is right now.
Cigarettes, tobacco,
There ain't nothing you can do about it.
I don't want to be another statistic. I don't want to be used.
We're here to beat down the tobacco industry.
Stores like these, mainly used by youth, contain 3 times more advertising by new